Welcome back. All 16 Michigan Republicans accused in a fake elector scheme to keep former President Donald Trump in power during the 2020 election are now challenging these charges in state court.
The 9 remaining defendants either pleaded not guilty or had a judge enter that plea on their behalf today. They face up to 14 years in prison if convicted of the most serious forgery-related charges.
Joining us now to discuss these developments is attorney Terry Johnson from Kirsch Daskis Law Group and attorney Angela Baldwin with Miller Law Firm. Thank you for both for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Happy to have you both. I'll start with you, Angela. In this latest case, what did you see today and where do you think all of this is headed?
Well, you know, it's a very, very popular topic, especially because you've got the Constitution on the line. And what a lot of people have debated about, and something that a lot of Trump supporters are using to prop their position, is something that occurred in 1960. And in 1960 in Hawaii, there was President Kennedy and Nixon, and it was very, very close at the time. And during that frame, they looked at having 2 electoral slates. So first you have Kennedy, who was taking the lead. They recounted. Then you have Nixon. It was very, very close. So they had 2 electors. There was no fraud involved in that. You know, it was a very, very different circumstance because in that case, December 14th, the date of which you were supposed to have your elector slated, after reviewing the facts, Nixon conceded and gave the electoral slate to Kennedy. So when you look at the facts and you look at the law in that situation and you try to compare it to today, there's really no comparison whatsoever. So the foundation of it may be the same, but the facts surrounding the details and the applicability of it all is totally different.
Terry, let's get your thoughts. The top charges here, they face potentially 14 years in prison.
Sure.
Do you believe that they will face that here and essentially will get that here, or do you believe that they will walk away from this?
I believe they're going to walk away, and while I respect my colleague's position on the Hawaii case, I don't think this is even about that. Obviously, everybody knows what this is about. This is about one man who people don't want him running, so they've gone after him. Now they're going after the people that supported him. This is a scary time in this country. But more importantly, if you look at the requirements for what needs to go to Washington, it has to have a couple of things that this document didn't have. Number one, it didn't have a seal from the great state of Michigan on it. Number two, it didn't have a gubernatorial signature. Now, if those things would have been on it and these 16 people tried to pass this off as a legitimate document, you might have some issues then. But no one in their wildest dreams is going to believe that these people sent this document somewhere and it was legitimate. Even in their caption that they wrote that they met at the Capitol, that's not true. They met in the basement of I believe the Republican headquarters at the time. The document said they met at the Capitol, and realistically, they were kept out of the Capitol. They weren't allowed in by state police. So what we have here more than anything else, again, is the Attorney General, not only here in this state, but every state across the union that has a Democrat in charge. They're going after Republicans who supported Trump, and this is a scary, scary time.
But the former president's own team, which we have come to realize in recent days, did acknowledge not only what happened in the 60s, but also acknowledged in that letter, we've now seen these emails, that this was of dubious legality, that this was a questionable scheme. What are we to make of that?
Well, when you say questionable scheme, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I think you've got 16 people that came together that said, we disagree. We're going to send this off to the electors in Washington, and we want you to consider it. The interesting thing is the electors, it's no different than, for example, if I buy a house and I take something down to the county, I have to have a seal for it to be legitimate, and I have to have a signature, some kind of stamp. If I use monopoly money to pay for it, no one's going to take me serious.
But what would be the purpose of showing up there with monopoly money?
Well, the purpose would be, in this case, to protest, to say, you know what, I disagree with this.
So you think it was a protest?
Respectfully,
Absolutely.
respectfully, it's just because they didn't commit the crime correctly does not mean that they are not culpable for that crime. So although they didn't have certain things which, you know, Terry has mentioned, that still doesn't take away the fact that they attempted to commit a crime. And in getting to Terry's point earlier, we're talking about law here, not necessarily the politics. You're politicizing the situation. If you take the politics out of it and just look straight at the law, there are certain things you cannot do. You cannot take it upon yourself to fraudulently act as a state elector. Nobody has the authority to just go do that on their own. And it is not true that they were not in the Capitol. Of course, they did not and were not allowed in the Capitol, because in Michigan is different laws, unlike other states, where you actually have to go into the Capitol and submit and cast that vote. They couldn't do that here. They were prohibited from doing that. However, they were outside of the Capitol premises, and they've got phone recordings and videos of themselves boasting about it. I mean, the fact of the matter is you have President Trump, who took a very, very prominent position and abused his power in order to sway public officials to vote in a way that they were not supposed to do so.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. I mean,
we can convict him now.
That is true. That is yet to be seen.
Yes,
whether or not he is, committed a crime by encouraging, state officials to vote and nullify a vote is yet to be seen. We'll have a judge and jury determine that.
We can go on and on, of course, for hours on this. Unfortunately, we have to wrap tonight on this topic. We appreciate Terry Johnson and attorney Angela Baldwin for joining us tonight.
Great.
We're right back after this.
Thank you.